Today, I'm gonna take a tour of my 2008 JK. I think I'm gonna fix it up and maybe add some upgrades and use it for some of the more challenging trails that I don't wanna damage the JL on. We're gonna do a walk around of it. We'll talk about some of the upgrades that I did to it, why I ended up doing it, and some of the things that it still needs fixing up, because when the JL arrived, I kind of just parked the JK and forgot about it for a little while. The channel has grown a lot over 2020. We started the year at around 5,000 subscribers and we just hit 25,000. And a lot of you guys haven't even seen the JK on the channel. Just a quick reminder, guys, before we get started, go check out dirtyanddangerous.com. We released a whole bunch of new designs for shirts and hoodies. If you want to support both my channel or Sean's channel, The Story Till Now, go check out dirtyanddangerous.com and grab something. Let's go get the JK. Since I don't leave a battery tender on the JK parked halfway up the driveway, I usually disconnect the negative terminal on it. So first thing we need to do is reconnect that before we can get it started. Now, normally we would tighten up the negative terminal if we were gonna take this driving anywhere or wheeling. If you don't have a tight connection on your terminals, they will heat up and that can lead to other problems just because of the increased resistance. Well, fire right up, which is great. It's been sitting for a few months. The serpentine belt is a little bit squeaky. That does go away after a few minutes and it warms up. I do have a spare that I should probably put on there, but hey, it's just sitting here. Wow, what a different feeling to be behind the wheel and in the seat of the JK compared to the JL. All right, guys, here is the 2008 JK that started it all. I'll show you guys some of the mods that I've done, but we'll talk about the list that I want to make of things that I would change or update or replace or fix and do some more wheeling with it. All right, so let's start up front and then we'll walk around, do the back, the tire carrier, everything else, and then we'll go inside and go through the interior as well. So up front, I have lots of mods. We have the 17-inch trail ready beadlocks on the 37-inch KM2s. Now, the thing that I don't like about these beadlocks is just how big these rings are. I believe they are the competition rings, and it makes airing up and airing down a little bit hard because it is hard to access the inflator valve for the tire because of just how big the ring is. So I think, you know, if I were to get beadlocks again or maybe on the JL, I wouldn't get as big of ring. I know Trail Ready does make a smaller ring. So on the front, we have a bunch of lights. These are the KC Highlights Flex Series lights. This is the 10-inch bar. These are the dual pods, and there are a pair up on each A-pillar. I just have a cover on here. There's the clear Lexan covers, which I put a perforated vinyl to try to keep this sort of out of the law's eyes. The problem I've had with these flex lights is mostly on the back. The wire connections on the back are not very durable when it comes to things hitting them, branches coming around and hitting the wires. They're very, very small connections and just hasn't really stood up to the trails in the trees and with lots of branches hitting them. I'd want to replace these lights. I'd probably just take them off as I don't really do a lot of night wheeling. Did replace the turn signals with the KC Cyclones up here. I really like this mod. There is a video. I'll put it up in the corner if you want to check out how I did the wiring with diodes and resistors for that. We have the gravity LEDs on the front, which I really do like. These are great headlights, super bright. The regular beam is pretty good, I would say average, but the high beam is extremely bright. Probably one of the brightest set of high beams that I've seen. I really like these headlights on here. I have this Xeon Platinum 10S winch from Warn, which has the nice wireless control and the LCD screen. It also can add a module if you want to add lights to it. You don't ever have to connect a winch controller to it. I didn't go with the Platinum on the JL because I just don't see the value for the additional cost. I do like this winch. It is very expensive and it's quite a bit of a step up versus getting the 10 or 12S Xeon and just adding a wireless controller to it. I found most of the time I'm getting out of the Jeep anyways to pull this winch line, so adding or connecting the wireless controller isn't such a big deal, which is why I didn't spend the extra money on the Platinum once again. And everything on this is electronic, which is kind of nice because you can put it into free spool or release the clutch on the winch with the remote. So if you are in your vehicle and somebody needs free spool and they're standing 20 feet away, you can just take the load off the winch and unlock it and they can pull it. But it is all electronic, so if something does happen to that, you can't free spool your winch or anything like that. As far as other things on the front, I've still got the Warden Sidewinder on here. I didn't go with this on the JL. I went with the Factor 55 Ultra hook. I don't really like the pin system on this. I was trying it out and I've just left it on here, but that is why I went with the Ultra hook on my JL. Now the JK has taken a lot of abuse. You can see a lot of paint chips on the hood as well, the grille. I still have to fix this here on the front where some of the screen got knocked off from actually a huge branch that fell out of the trees when we were down at Jeep Jamboree in Oregon. Behind here, I have the transmission oil cooler, which has been rock solid and kept my temps down with the auto on the 3.8. So that's pretty good. Don't need to replace any of that. I have the Synergy tie rod and drag link on here. These have been just something I really don't like at all. The ends on the Synergy bars are just the boots keep coming off them and the grease comes out and they just don't seem to stand up to a lot of the off-road abuse. I do have the redneck ram on here and I did weld on the tabs onto the tie rod. So I think if I replace the tie rod, I would not weld this on again and I would just put a clamp system. But the redneck ram has been awesome. You basically just port your steering box and then the hydraulic lines go to the ram and it assists your steering and pushes the tie rod back and forth. With the Synergy ends, you get a huge flop when you go from lock to the other direction, which I really don't like. You basically don't get any assist from the ram when you're changing directions. So I think I would want to change out the steering components on here, the tie rod and drag link, should we keep the JK any longer. Now, something we would definitely have to replace and it's been on my list is fixing the windshield. My windshield is cracked. It's super common to crack your windshield around here with all the tree branches that you hit on the trail, but as well just rocks that are kicked up when you're traveling along the fire service roads or the forestry service roads. A bunch of the powder coating is chipping off all over the Jeep. That's something that I'm not really sure what to do with. I had them professionally powder coated. I've been touching them up basically with flat black rust paint in a spray can whenever the powder coating chips off. I find most of it chips off around the sharp edges, so I'm not really sure whether or not to re-powder coat them. A lot of the powder coating hasn't stood up through the abuse of the mud and the rocks and the trees and the branches and the snow and everywhere we take these things. All right, the next big thing that I need to address are the roof and the doors. The roof has seen a lot of abuse from just bumping into trees on some of these really tight trails on the island, and well, it's ripped, it leaks, it's bent some of the metal parts of the frame, and well, it was good for, you know, around 3 years of pretty hard off-roading. If I keep the JK, I definitely need to replace the roof with something else. I do like the fastback look, so I would want to replace it with another fastback. But this one, this is an Offroad Heroes top. I'm not even sure if they make them anymore, but it's pretty much ready to be taken off and put into the garbage. I also really don't like the style of this roof, how it works. While it is nice and low profile for ducking under trees, it is really hard to get off. And I've actually started to tear part of the roof because you have to pull these plastic tabs out from underneath this rail on the top. And it gets really, really tight when it's cold. Even when it's warm, it's very challenging, and some of the stitching has started to rip out and pop out, and so the roof is pretty much ready to be replaced, and that is probably number one on my list of things I would want to change if I keep the JK. As well, the doors, especially on the passenger side, have seen a number of trees. They are dented. I have basically used some factory color spray paint to touch up the areas that have lost their paint, but these doors have tons of dents in them. And I really, really like the look of the best top corridors with the soft upper. And that would probably be pretty high on my list to replace rather than going back to factory and doing something like that. I don't need all of the fancy luxuries of electric windows and electric locks and stuff like that on my JK. This is the hardcore off-roader, And I think I'd be more than happy with manually unlocking the doors and removing the soft windows when it's warm enough and nice enough to wheel. And I think it would just make it a whole lot easier to have a brand new top on here with these doors that I can quickly go between closed up when it's cold and take it apart and open it up when it's really warm. We have the Evo aluminum corner armor on here. I installed this basically when I whacked the rear corner on a tree and caved it in and smashed my taillight. So I was looking for sort of an upgrade, something to hide some of that body damage, and I didn't want to buy another factory taillight. The big challenge is riv nuts. I hate riv nuts. A couple of these riv nuts are actually spinning, and one of them is actually, I don't know, bound up or cross-threaded. I just haven't taken the hours to take all of this apart and then get this painted. I wanted to paint it to match the body. I think if we were to do a big teardown, I would take it off and get that done and fix up a couple of these riv nuts that are spinning here on the back. Do like the LED taillights. However, Evo sends you, I guess, truck light LED taillights, and then they send a gasket that goes in the back to hold the taillights in. The problem I had was this tolerance is so tight. I'm not sure how anybody gets them in. I warm them up, I use soap and water. I've looked on the internet to see who else was putting these on, and I end up tearing one of the round rubber gaskets that go around the taillight. I'm honestly afraid to take it out to have to try to get it back in again. The way that I have it set up is essentially I have to take the taillight out so I can get my hand in with a wrench to undo the bolts that the receiver plate for the tire carrier has, and I just really am dreading taking all that apart. But I think if we did this whole teardown, I'd be investing a lot of hours into it, and that is something on the list. I would like to get this corner armor cleaned up and looking a bit more fitting for the vehicle, but it's a huge project on its own just to take it off. This is the Poison Spider tire carrier. It's being quite durable. I really like the look of it, and I'm able to attach some accessories to it. I've got my 37-inch spare on here, which it holds no problem, but I do find that I'm always having to adjust it. It has a big bolt on it that you rotate on the other side that allows for the other side to move up and down a little bit, but I just can never seem to get it in the right spot for any long duration of time every time I adjust it. And these pins don't line up very well if it's not adjusted, so you have to kind of lift it up and put it into place. It is nice that you can lock it, so if you want, you can't open this at all, and you can't steal your spare, especially if you have a really expensive beadlock rim on there. That's quite a bit of money sitting on the back of your Jeep, so I do like that feature. I don't know if I would get the Poison Spider tire carrier and the Evo armor because of all the cutting I had to do to make this work on this side. So that is something to note if you guys are doing that. Maybe get the Poison Spider armor with the Poison Spider tire carrier. But I don't really like how Poison Spider cuts in their logo in the side of the armor. I just, you know, having brands all over my Jeep, I don't know why everybody has to make all of their products with their brand just splattered all over it. But I did have some trouble with the Evo corner armor and the tire carrier. Now I did have the tire carrier first, and I didn't really even think about whether or not I'd have any problems with this corner armor, but as you can see here, the receiver plate for the tire carrier actually goes over top of some of the light as well, so it's not a perfect fit, and it's kind of hard to go back from because each one requires a bunch of cutting and bolting onto your Jeep that you can't really reverse. I suppose you could take this off and have all the holes filled and start again, but that's a pretty big project, and I don't think I would need to do that, but just something to look out for if you guys are mixing matching tire carriers and rear corner armor. The other thing is I have the Rotopacks on the back of here. I don't think I would ever put a Rotopacks on the back of my Jeep again. I maybe used this once or twice, and I've actually cracked it backing up and just barely touching a tree, and then you have fuel spilling all over. These here are the quick fist clamps that I use to hold my shovel on. I'm just trying to figure out where I want to put a set of these on the JL. These are great. They've held my shovel on for years. They keep my shovel out of the way, so you know, essentially if it gets all muddy and dirty, it's not going inside the Jeep. I've driven, you know, 80 miles an hour down in the States, and my shovel's stayed on here no problem. So definitely a good upgrade if you want to attach your shovel to anywhere on your vehicle. Quick fist clamps. Just a reminder, guys, I will put a bunch of product links down in the description below. They are Amazon product links. They are affiliate links. I do receive a small commission if you click on them. It hugely helps support the channel and the cost to operate it. There's really no cost to you at all if you click on them and want to check them out. Whether you click on them and buy something or click on them just to find out what the products are, I find them helpful to put in the description, so check them out down below. So just with the tailgate open, we'll show you quickly inside here. I do have water dripping in from just washing this right now. The problem is I can't use the metal rail that goes across here that comes with this Offroad Heroes top with the Tuffy security deck. Now, I really do like this enclosure because it allows for me to put some stuff and have it secure and you can't get into it even with the soft top. I have my air compressor and stuff sitting in here, as well as air up and tools and all that kind of stuff. But I can't get this all the way closed. So this usually just sits between the tailgate and the Tuffy security enclosure, and sometimes flaps a little bit if it's the right wind, but it does allow a bunch of water in here. Definitely when we get a new top, we're gonna get something that is more compatible with the Tuffy security enclosure, because I do wanna keep that and keep all my tools and extra parts secure when we're out on the trail. That leads me to the next thing, my air compressor. I assembled a pair of 480C Vi-Air compressors and put them in here. I built all my own relay and wiring and switch, and then I put a 10-gallon 200 PSI tank in here. When this tank fills up with 200 PSI, you can air up a pair of tires really quickly, and then you can kind of let it recharge and do another set. I just find this setup way too overly complicated, and I kind of want to take it out and free up some of this room, because cargo capacity has always been a bit of a challenge with the JK. And I really do like the ARB twin compressor that I put in the JL, and it is way more compact, uses way less room, and I find I probably air up similar speeds. While it looks good, it was a cool idea, and it was definitely taught me a lot about air compressors and fittings and wiring. It just takes up way too much space, and I think I want to take it out. If I keep this, probably sell off those pumps and order another ARB twin compressor. In the back, we definitely need to replace the gas cap. Once again, removed it on a tree, just barely clipped it, and the thing basically exploded. I did order another one off AliExpress, which I had in a video last year. I still haven't put it in, but definitely need to replace that. The other thing that I do need to fix up is I need to find out where the evap leak is. Now, I did relocate my evap canister last year, and I did do a video on that of how the bracket worked and how I relocated it. I even bought the new sending unit, evap, everything, because it had an evap leak, major evap leak in the check engine light. That's the check engine light that I still have on here, and I just can't find what the issue is. So I would like to track that down, because I really don't like check engine lights. That evap canister underneath is just a pain in the butt and always getting damaged, or parts of it getting damaged. And that's just a really annoying one with the JKs. It seems like everybody has evap canister leaks, or at least around here with sticks and mud and all the rocks that go up and smash it. Over here on the back, we've got the Evo mud flaps. The police around here are really cracking down on people not having mud flaps on their really wide tires. I don't have my tires completely covered by my fender flares, which is also technically not legal, but I put mud flaps on here to try to cut down on chucking rocks out the back. These I really don't like at all. I've just left them on because I have them. The system that they've put together really just, these constantly bend all the time. They're very wobbly. Every time you take them off, they seem to loosen up a little bit more, and you got to take them off and hit them with a hammer and realign the little sliding glide on here. It's just, they're really expensive, and they just don't seem to be the quality that I was expecting, especially from Evo manufacturing. So I do have another set of universal mud flaps from Teraflex in the garage, which I wanted to put on the JL, but I just don't really want them on the JL. So I'm looking for maybe a different solution for the JL, but I might try to put them on here and have something that doesn't do this all the time. And when you look at it from the back of the Jeep, it's not sloping down and kind of looks funny. So if we take a quick look inside the interior, there are a few things that I'd want to change. The big one is the electrical or lighting control system, or lack thereof. I've essentially wired most of the stuff on the Jeep up to a couple switches here underneath the steering wheel. There are three-way toggle switches. That way I've got actually a system for a bunch of the lights that allow them to either come on during an event, such as going into reverse, or I can manually turn them on as needed. I've had a lot of kind of little issues with the wiring, and really there's just a lot of wires coming in from the engine bay into the cab. And I think that a proper wiring solution that maybe sits underneath the hood somewhere and just has a dedicated switch panel that comes into the cab of the Jeep would work a lot better and be a lot more reliable. I've had my fair share of issues with the switches and some of my wiring and just the way I've had to make it work. So I think replacing all of this, what I would do is probably just take everything out that I've wired as far as lighting goes, strip it down to nothing, and start again with a proper wiring or lighting controller, and wire that all up, and then redo all of the lights. Several of the rock lights underneath, I have KC highlights, RGB lights underneath, as well as many cyclones. Lots of them have been damaged by sticks and rocks and water and just time. And so lots of them aren't working properly anymore, or half working, or the RGB lights don't have all their colors anymore. As well, we have a holder for a tablet and a phone. I do use the phone. I've stopped using my tablet. I've been running Gaia Maps. You guys are Gaia GPS. You guys are always asking me what I run for GPS. I run Gaia GPS. I've run it on my phone now. I just find it a little bit easier, and I can look stuff up when I'm not in the Jeep and plot out courses, things like that. So I haven't really been using the tablet as much. I find the phones now are getting so big that it's pretty much filling all my needs and allows me to clean a little bit of the dash up. I've also got the Trail Dash 2 on here. It basically allows you to recalibrate for your tire size, your gear ratio, and it has some relays that you can add onto it, which I have, that it also controls my air compressor. So if I want to turn the air compressor, I do it there. I haven't had really any problems with the Trail Dash. I would probably move the control for the compressor off of that onto whatever dedicated electrical system that I do add in the future. I do find the touchscreen a little bit unresponsive and annoying to use. So I think it's good for an extra set of gauges, the ability to reprogram your Jeep for tires and gears, disable TPMS sensors, but I don't really like it for controlling any systems or devices within the Jeep itself. Other than that, I've really tried to keep the interior of the JK fairly basic. We've got the really nice Bartack or Trek Armor seat covers. I think Bartack bought them a while ago, but these are the Trek Armor versions. I really like them. They're nice and clean. You can wipe them down. I've removed all of the carpet. I think if we were to tear everything out, all the electrical out, I'd pull all the seats out, and I'd want to get the inside of it bed lined, and just from front to back, it would really clean it up a lot. It would make it look a lot nicer. I think it would help cut down on some of the heat, because I do find a lot of heat comes from the transmission tunnel right next to your feet, and I don't have any carpet in here. The carpet was always just getting wet and muddy and would get musty smelling and gross, so I just took it out. So there's lots of mods on the JK that really make me want to keep it. We've replaced the front axle with a Pro Rock 44. We've got the Dynatrack Pro Grip big brakes on here. We've got the 37-inch tires. We've got the Trail Ready B-Locks. The entire suspension has been upgraded with a Rockcrawler X Factor 3.5-inch lift. So we've redone all 8 control arms. There's skid plates underneath here. Just tons and tons of mods, time, and well, money. It is a great rig for island wheeling, where our trails are very tight and you are more likely to bump into things, and I'm not too keen to take my brand new JL and just bash it into trees every weekend. So I'd love to hear what you guys' thoughts are, what you want to see for content on the channel. So leave a like if you enjoyed this video, share it with your friends, smash that subscribe button. Don't forget to turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of my uploads here on the channel, and see you guys next week in the next video.